Welcome back to Conversations Catapults, the #1 after show for the #1 D&D podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, and today I have a few delightful guests joining me. Please say hello, delightful guests.
Hi, I am the first of the delightful guests. My name is Ben, and I play on the hit podcast show Trials and Trebuchets, the whimsical wizard Windsor Wallaby.
Hi, I'm Delight #2, and my name is Carla, and I play the Integrity Idleberry of the hit show Trials and Trebuchets.
I didn't know that there were delights here, but it seems that there are. That they're wonderful people, but I'm just Sarah. I play Mira Marchand, the level 6 half-elf bard on Trials and Trebuchets.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a Turkish delight, and I play the level 6 human sorceress, Serenep Cinderman.
I just want to say I had Turkish Delight on the brain, so thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Is Turkish Delight good enough to sell out your siblings? Yes or no?
I would
Yes.
sell out my brother in a heartbeat.
Yes.
Fair.
If I'm like a child during World War II Britain, I might, but otherwise no.
What's a Turkish
Well, I feel
delight?
like, I know that everybody says, like, oh, it's like there's sugar rationing in World War II. They wouldn't have experienced it. That's the main reason why I actually think that you should not sell your child out for Turkish Delight, because I feel like if you fed anything with sugar or flavor to a British child, especially in the 40s, it would just kill them.
I think the fact that I know that my brother would sell me out for anything, I am equally gonna sell him out. So, joke's on you, Peter.
That's valid.
Wow, yeah. No, honestly, anything stronger than beans on toast would just end a British person. But
We've been doing a lot of Anglophobia
Yeah, there's
on these podcasts.
There's been so much like
Oh my
Anglophobia.
Yeah.
What the
And
fuck?
get ready for an hour more here on
no.
Conversations and Catapults. No,
Is that a threat?
It's a
Absolutely
promise.
not. But speaking
Same
of
brain, Sam.
threats,
Oh no.
Threats.
Trials and Trebuchets
Threats.
isn't exactly a combat-heavy show. It is something you all deal with on a very rare basis, usually only when your hand is forced. So I wanted to talk with you all about this most recent combat in episode 114. What goes through like you or your characters' heads when you hear the dreaded command to roll initiative? And something here to think about is your character going to be more focused on like eliminating threats, protecting allies, or just getting the hell out?
Well, I feel like most of the time we're placed up against enemies where we don't really have an alternative, right? Like the Oblex, we were not gonna reason with it. We tried, it didn't work. Korka was Korka, Nesca was Nesca. The two, we sort of like tried not to pick a side at first for the two fighting leaders of Nebulosis, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So I feel like this combat was a little bit rare insofar as we were just able to get out of there and try to do what we wanted to do in terms of like safety. And that I think is a rare and perhaps welcome occasion for our characters.
Do you think that would have been different without the Nesca fight, where you all came so close to death in this? Like, and to be fair, violence in this show is very typically like life and death, which is not a university student's like best place to be. So I wanted to check with you to see like, all right, well, did the Nesca combat change how you all view these kind of moments where you need to fight?
It definitely did for Mira, but I can't speak for anyone else.
I think that whenever I think of combat, I guess like right now in my head that the top tier fight that we've had where it's super scary was the Nesca fight. I was so close to thinking that, oh, I'm totally gonna die today or tomorrow. So when we had to roll initiative for this one, I was like, I'm sure I'm not gonna die. Like, we have a plan to get out of here. So, but then I think I was also a little bit scared of fighting, especially after knowing from Ben, like his reaction towards finding out about that gray what was
The
that?
slad.
Loud.
Yeah, the gray
loud
slad. I was like, oh shit, like this is real, and we could practically like die right now too. But I had a feeling that that the ivory ash what? Ivory
The ivory
Ivory
what?
ass woman.
that the ivory masked woman was going to fight for me on behalf of me, which is not what happened, but I guess like it's just that feeling of reassurance that right now I'm not the target, which is great.
Yeah, I would say the Nesca fight has definitely been the turning point, because I feel like that was the first fight where I felt like our characters' lives were in like so much more significant danger than any other one that we've probably
Even
encountered.
more than Korka?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
You
I
think?
feel like,
See,
yeah.
I thought that Korka was like the first brush with real lethality, just because we saw Integrity have a 50-50 chance of just being yeeted into lava. I don't know if y'all remember that or not.
Oh yeah,
I do remember
well,
that,
for a
but-
moment we weren't sure, like if Integrity was fine or not. Like there was a few of those seconds, but I feel like the Nesca situation is more real, in just in the sense that like it's more recent, and not only that, but like we didn't really feel any like tangible, like when we were fighting Korka, there were aspects that we clearly saw that was like, oh, this regime is dangerous, right? Like we saw everything like in the prisons with like the torturer and like the gold stuff, and so we saw that. But prior to the fight, we didn't necessarily see any like specific physical display of like lethality directed toward us, and I think that that's something that we like especially saw with like Nesca, and like she will bite off people's arms, she will murder our headmaster, like she will come after Delnus and Teb. Not that we knew that Teb was dead yet, but we had strong reason to be concerned about that.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
she's a girl boss. They're meant to be feared.
She's Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss, and we love that
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Well, yeah, that's definitely the difference, is because Nesca has had like actual physical implications and has done a bunch of stuff that to our characters that Korka has not actually done. So I feel like
And
it's just
neither
more
has-
stress, because we know exactly what Nesca is capable of and how dangerous she actually is. And
But does that fear carry on into further combats against people like Loud the Slad, or the Ivory Masked Woman, or potentially down the line, you all could be facing Ferdinand?
And salty.
Do you have that same fear even though you haven't seen them display that brutality? Or are you going to need to see someone lose an arm before you actually have that similar fear?
no, I
Mace.
think fear has become more commonplace now, just because things are getting a little bit crazy and there's a lot more happening. So it's like, I think any sort of other encounter that we might find or like face, it's gonna be really scary, especially now that we're being hunted by God knows what.
In that case, here's a question for the whole group. Rank the scariest to the least scary.
Ooh.
Celty, Loud, the Ivory Masked Woman, or Ferdinand?
Salty, Loud,
Because-
Ivory Masked Woman, Ferdinand. Sliff.
Or Sylph. The reason I ask this is mostly just because you're currently on 3 people's shit lists, and they are not exactly people who you want to have as enemies.
Mm-hmm.
But you're all doing this to help Ferdinand. Is that because you consider her an even larger threat? Or is it because you think it's the right thing to do? Or is there another reason?
Okay, I have my rankings.
Let's hear it.
My ranking is number 1 is Loud, number 2 is Salty, number 3 is Ferdinand, and number 4 is the Ivory Masked Woman. Okay, so for Loud, I think that like Loud has 2 factors on his side, right? There's the fact that like Slad are powerful and scary, obviously, but there's also the fact that he's managed to convince this like entire village of frog people that he is their leader. So not only do we have, can you tell I had a debate tournament this morning? I'm like still in that mode. But like, no, but like not only does Loud have like the physical abilities and the dedication to hunt somebody down for like however long, but he also has like manpower and like the ability to like convince others of his power on his side. So Loud, I think, is the scariest. Celtic, I'm gonna say, is number 2, largely just because of her relationship to Winsler. While I think that like might make her hesitant to like physically harm us, just because she has that deal with Winsler, so she probably can't kill him. I think that she would probably resort to like trying to kill us to like get Winsler to do what she wants him to do. And I think that she also just has scary magics. Similarly for Ferdinand, I think they probably have equivalent skills. She's obviously like a manipulative little girl boss, but I think that Salty, just because of like the ties she has with everybody, is scarier to me. She's also much more unhinged right now, though I don't know if that makes her more or less intimidating. And then the Ivory Masked Woman woman is still scary and clearly very dedicated, but like she's at least been nice to us so far, so I feel like she'd be the most willing to listen.
Interesting. I'm really interested to find out what Ben thinks, just because adding Celty to the list is a fun wrench into things between her and Winsler.
I would agree that Loud is probably up there, just because it's a slad and they are scary. They are very scary. I would probably put Ferdinand in second and Celty third, just because I feel like a threat that you don't see coming is more dangerous than a threat you do see coming a mile away.
I can see that 100%.
And considering that she's with us right now, I feel like we could be in probably more danger than we realize.
Absolutely.
And Celty, who I don't care anymore. Bye, Celty.
Wow,
Friendship
really?
ended with Celty. Now my new best
Friendship
friend is
ended
Ferdinand.
with
You're not
Celty.
visiting grandma anymore.
Nope, bye, Grandma.
Wow. Just attached by Velcro.
Second Grandma.
Sam, Carla, what about y'all?
Sam, you can go ahead.
Okay. I think for Serenepth, it's like she doesn't know a lot about any of these people. She wasn't with the Ivory Masked woman when everything crazy happened with the Mirror Nebulosis. She has very little knowledge about the slab, but she knows a little bit, like a little bit more than the other guys, except for Integrity, who was in the class with her. Like, it's really tough to really rank them, but if I had to, I would probably say that Ferdinand would be the most dangerous, just because these people who we are also ranking all want to get to Ferdinand. And so, like, it's kind of like, oh, all these really dangerous people want to take and get rid of the person we are currently with. What does that mean? So I would say, like, Ferdinand first, Slad the second, because of, like, you know, like the unknown of what's happening, like, with them, because, like, we don't have a lot of research on them. I would say Ivory Masked person, woman, because it's like they like, she has a domain with the dead kind of thing, and like that kind of gives you more power that you can't really like imagine, because like we haven't seen everything that she can do. So I'm kind of worried that Luke is gonna pull out a whole thing where she shoots us with a laser or something like that. I don't know. And
So anyway, I started blasting.
harnesses the power of the sun and then just shoots it at us. And I think I would put Celty last, just because with the amount of interactions that we've had with her at this point, I think the biggest danger that Serenepth recognizes is the danger to Winsler, but not so much to us, if that makes sense.
No, I can see that. Winsler obviously has a very different relationship with Celty than the rest of you do.
They're
and-
BFFs.
Like, the
Very
creepiest thing
much
she's
so.
ever done to me was ask for my fingernails, apparently.
Yeah.
Your fingernails, hand them over.
Carla.
I think mine, the first one, it would definitely be Loud, just because, you know, he's a slad. He hates us at this moment. So like his anger is targeted towards us. Well, not exactly just us, but Ferdinand, and then us helping out Ferdinand. So I just have this feeling, especially with the, like, in the podcast, they were like staring right at us, like with angry face, I guess. So I just have like that very scared, I just envision them in that manner, and that scares me a lot. And then the second one would probably be the Ivory Masked woman, because even Ferdinand is scared of her, and she makes deals in hell, so that's pretty scary to me too. I mean, I know that I'm half devil, but I still don't want to be there for that prolonged period of time. It seems very boring.
It may be home, but I don't want to go back, you know?
And then I have Celty next, just because, okay, I might be a little bit too trusting based on what Ferdinand told us about Celty, like turning her back on Ferdinand and doing all that stuff. So I just have this idea in my head that Celty at any moment can turn her back against us and punish us for whatever reason. And then Ferdinand is the least threatening to me because we're in a safe place. Like, why would she kill us here, right? I don't know.
The gods can eat us. I don't know.
I think that like Ferdinand has the least like incentive to kill us is the thing, because we are trying to help her. Like she could just double cross us after because she's a dick. But with the others, it's more like they would have a specific reason or material gain. I think that Ferdinand is like a distrustful person overall, but I think in this specific situation, she doesn't have much to gain from screwing us over.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if she was a murderer, I think that she would have fewer people trying to chase her down.
That's fair.
That is true.
Yeah.
Sounds
Good
like she's a
point.
really
Now-
bad assassin.
Well, she is a murderer. We do know she is a murderer of some people, but that's different. It's chill.
All right,
It's
time
fine.
to carry
It's
out my
cool.
assassination. Oops, my
It's
knife
MBD.
Speaking
slipped.
of,
I think one of them said something about like she literally just went somewhere and blew everything up. So like there's also that.
very true.
Boom.
Now, I did have a question, though, regarding people who are now dangerous. We recently learned out a few new things about Celti, whether or not they are to be trusted is, But my big question is for Ben, because I really enjoy looking at the Winsler and Celti relationship. Now, Ferdinand did give some new information on that coven that she was a part of with Celti. How has that affected Winsler's relationship with Celti, his view of her, and also, like, how is that in conjunction with the way she's acted towards Winsler in the past couple of hours?
Winslow's a very in the moment kind of guy. So I feel like
I can
his
see
feelings
that.
would be very much dictated by the heat of the moment, how someone reacts to the situation, and all that sort of stuff. So I would say the relationship has already started to kind of get a little rocky. And now I think with the whole situation that happened with Ferdinand and the whole like reveal that Celti is probably a bad person, who would have thought?
Shocking.
I couldn't believe it.
Neither could
I can't
Winsler,
believe-
apparently.
I know. It's
So I would say,
tragic.
yeah, things are probably not going to be very good between them for a bit. And I think Winsler kind of understands that, and that like Celti could be very, very dangerous now.
Do you think that has the potential to become permanent, or do you think there is anything that Celti can do in order to win back Winsler's trust?
Another golem head.
Another golem head.
Yogg needs a sibling.
Oh no, poor Sereneth having to pay for 2 students.
Oh no.
I've already been dragged into one thing. I'm not being dragged to another.
I don't think so. I don't think there's really anything that she could do to reconcile anything, because knowing Celti, there's probably going to be a catch. And it's like, oh, if I give you one good thing, you'll do another good thing for me, right? Kill that witch, Ferdinand. Do this, go do that, go fall in a mud puddle, I don't care, or something.
And that also brings up another question that I have for the group, which is, what would it take for you all to turn over Ferdinand to one of these other people?
Money.
You all have done a very good job of protecting someone who has no interest in any of your well-being. What would it take for you to turn her over?
I think it's largely like right now, partly a measure of self-preservation, because if we chose to turn her into any one person, the other 2 would immediately turn against us. So I think that we would be willing to do it if we were to get like amnesty from the other 2 for it.
Really?
Oof.
I mean, I think that's where Mira's at. Like, I don't think she has much care for Ferdinand as like a friend. Ferdinand's a bad person. She charmed her. Like, if we were fine turning her over to like one of the people without consequences, I think it would be okay. But as it currently stands, we are also in trouble for the act of like not picking a person when we have deals with 3 separate entities for this. So
Yeah.
Yeah, who does Ferdinand even really belong to at this point, if we're going by who
Herself.
called dibs first?
Ferdinand
Well,
I
belongs
think she
to
belongs
herself.
to the fans.
Oh, goodness.
I totally agree with that, because I mean that's practically the reason why we're going to meet up with the gods, right? Like, it's not just because we're in so much shit, but we're in so much shit and at the moment with those 3 people. So before this option was given to us, I was just like, yeah, totally, I'll give her to the ivory masked woman. I mean, she's the one that I have a deal with. Loud and Salty can get fucked. But but at this moment, if I do that, then the other two will be mad at us. So there's this option to go to the gods and be like, hi, please protect us from all of these other things. So not just those 3 things, but hi, please protect us from the progenitor. Please protect us from Marundine because, like, he's annoying.
You tried to have like a friendship race with him and everything, and now you're just like, you know what? Fuck that. Gods, protect me because I owe this guy like 20 gold.
Exactly. I have no 20 gold to spare.
I think it would have been interesting if Luke hadn't have, I don't know, like us getting away and everything, because I think it would have been interesting because Serenepth would have gone with the Slad because she doesn't owe anything to Celti. She doesn't owe anything to the masked ivory woman. The biggest threat at this moment is the Slad being like, if you lie to me about this, I'm going to kill you. And then we already tried to get away once. So I think it would have been interesting because I feel like it would have ended up with, I don't know, maybe us fighting each other in some way. Well, but not like a physical fight, but like argument.
I could see that happening. Each of you has a different sort of allegiance. Integrity has ties to the ivory masked woman. Winsler has air quotes around ties to Celti. At the very least, Celti has something on Winsler. A sort of like, not necessarily blackmail, but a bargaining chip. And meanwhile, Serenepth and Mira, however, are essentially the free agents here.
Well, I also made a deal with the ivory masked woman, but I'm not sure if the deal is... Yeah, we both did, but I'm not sure if the deal is still in effect because we both had cuts on our hands, but then Mira lost that arm, so I don't know if that was like the only representation of the deal or if it's like the same effect as like tearing up a contract where that's just a piece of paper and the contract still exists. I don't know.
There's only one way to find out.
The symbol should have been on the finger. It's easier to It's easier to cut off the finger. It's hard to cut off the entire arm.
You know what? I had totally forgotten about that connection that Mira and Integrity had with the Ivory Masked Woman. Speaking of connections between Integrity and Mira, that was just a really solid segue there. Now, you two had a very touching heart-to-heart in episode 115, and I wanted to talk to you both about that. How does this discussion affect your friendship? And the two of you definitely have the biggest connections to the big mysterious forces in this world, being the progenitor, Nesca, Terrassus, etc. Tell me, with you two being aligned with different forces here, do you see that affecting their friendship further down the road? Or do you think you would sooner void any relationship with your warlock patron or your ghost mom? I wanted to just hear your thoughts on this.
I am afraid that it will. Just because at this moment, I don't think Integrity really understands how, the gravity of the situation. And frankly, she's still figuring that out. How loyal should I be to this, being without dying? Because she honestly feels like everything she does is practically now dictated by what the progenitor wants. So I'm afraid that it will get to the point where it might have to test my loyalties to my friends. Obviously, as Integrity, she wants to be loyal to her friends and she wants to be a good person. But honestly, at this point, I feel like Integrity has been a bad friend and a bad person in general because, I don't know, she's evil by association. And I...
Damn.
I was not expecting this kind of reveal here.
Well, no, I just think that I'm afraid that it will get there because it seems like that's a big possibility. I want Integrity to stay loyal to her friends, and I hope that it wouldn't get to a point where she has to go against that, but it's almost impossible not to. And I'm afraid that that's going to ruin her friendship with Mira as well, because I feel like they're super close. With I guess like with everyone else, but yeah.
I think that Mira is like kind of in a similar boat of like being worried. Like, I think that her sort of stance on Integrity right now is that like emotionally she's still kind of mad at Integrity, but at the same time she still wants the two of them to be friends and still cares about her. I think that she wants them to like remain close overall, but there very much are those concerns of like, what if my like dead ghost mom and like Integrity's patron want us to do different things? Like, what's gonna happen then if we're like put head to head in conflict with each other? Like, I don't want that to happen. And so I think that, you know, Mira is still friends with Integrity and is still willing to like try to work through something so that that doesn't happen. But it's definitely a concern of Mira's, and she still feels a little bit like hurt and also like nervous on a like cosmic story level about like Integrity not telling her. So it's mixed feelings and it's complex feelings at the moment.
Gotcha. So there is potential for a breakdown of friendship there between the two of you based on...
Well, we hope not, but
hope
there
not.
could be.
But it would be pretty spicy if that did happen.
You hear that, Luke?
Yeah, I'm not trying to put ideas in anyone's head, but...
Yeah,
No,
Luke,
and
stop
actually-
listening to this.
Yeah, Luke, quit editing. Take a break. But actually, speaking of those big mysterious forces, I also want to talk with Sam and Ben, because your characters don't have as much of a tie to these, like, to what I consider the big three of Terrassus, Nesca, and the Progenitor. As we note, Sereneth came in post Sunken Hatch, so she doesn't have that original tie to the orbs or anything like that. But Wensler does. However, he seems to be a bit more removed from those things. He doesn't have any snake arms and weird dreams or anything like that relating to the orbs. Or does he? And I've just totally forgotten.
No, although...
Do you have a snake arm?
No, I hope not.
You legally have to tell me if you have a
Damn.
snake arm.
I don't have a snake arm. But
Perfect.
It's actually a snake
I
leg.
think technically we do have a tie to the big things at play, because we did agree to help that one hooked deity who knows all and whatever will happen and what has happened. So
Oh, that's true.
I love
That's
the confluence.
that's plainer stuff. I don't know if that relates to the Progenitor and Terrassus. I mean,
It could.
I mean, good point.
who knows? It's the fates. You never know.
Now, with that in mind, though, like, how does this Warlock reveal affect both of your perceptions of Integrity? Because Sam, Sereneth, this, like, they're cousins. They have a blood tie there. Does that, I don't know how important that is to Sereneth, especially since they hadn't met each other prior to going to school. I'm sorry if this is a bit scattershot. It's just, I'm interested to see how
that's
this
okay.
kind of thing will affect a relationship between people who may not have as strong of a tie to it as Mira does.
I think, like you said before, Sereneth wasn't there at the beginning. She doesn't know the other big things. But I think something that Sereneth understands is the need to keep a secret. So with Integrity's secret being revealed like that, and very clearly not being prepared, and especially the dangers that come from it, with the whole like Progenitor kind of showing up and like hurting her in front of people, like when it wasn't like there. I think Sereneth's feelings towards this isn't really negative. I think it's just more like she's kind of going with the punches of, okay, your cousin is in danger and you want to protect her.
I follow you, but also I understand the Sereneth understands wanting to keep a secret, but when that secret actually could put your friends at risk and your cousin at risk, do you think that there's almost a sense of Sereneth enabling Integrity to continue down a darker path?
Sereneth villain arc when?
It definitely does feel like we're gearing up for a corruption arc for someone in the group. I don't know who, but
So sorry, just so I can understand your question. Are you saying like because of like, are you suggesting that because of Serenep's reaction to it, that integrity will take keeping these kinds of things, at least from Serenep, won't affect it, or?
The crux of the question is, do you think that Serenep, being so understanding of Integrity's conundrum at the moment, do you think cutting her that slack is going to be bad for them in the long run? And this may be too broad
That's
a question.
Really question.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad question at all. I feel like, and this is Sam talking, like, as, like, I don't know if I ever, I think I've explained it to the others and everything, and I don't know how. I'm gonna probably go off topic. Actually, maybe I should not do this. But I think that I can't really say if it would be a good or bad thing for their relationship. I personally think that having someone be understanding, but, like, I actually don't really know how to answer that question.
And that's totally fair. You know, some of these don't necessarily have a good answer. You'll only be able to figure it out when you're actually put in the situation.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. I'm afraid those are all of the questions that I have for you all this time. I know it was a bit shorter than last time, but I wanted to make it a bit easier on Luke this time around.
Pat on the back, Dungeon Boy.
He needs it. But
Now go drink some water.
Stay hydrated.
absolutely. We'll see how Luke appreciates that coming up in just a moment here when I join him for sliding into the DMs. So after this short break, I will be joining him. And I want to thank all of you, my wonderful, delightful guests, for joining me. Please come back next time.
Are
Make
we
sure
not
to leave
doing
the door open.
battleships?
I don't have any new characters to do
not.
battleships with.
That's fair. I just thought you might do old ones.
What about all the deities?
Oh god.
We don't know much about the
All
I mean, there's
elders
already
in
a fan
Isafil.
fiction in the works.
Oh my
currently.
gosh, all elders.
Every single elder.
All right, I am willing to do a flash, one quick round of battleships if you all are interested.
Sure.
Oh, there is
Do it.
one.
Go.
Just one.
Sure.
Do
It's
it.
gonna be quick.
Quick.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
Ivory masked woman.
Ooh.
I can't say Kreska. I did Kreska last time.
Now you cannot say.
Dang it.
Fuck.
Can I say Slad because they had that little, like, quip competition when they first saw each other when when she showed up in her boat.
Oh, Loud.
Yeah, her and Loud, because, like, they had, like, that little, like,
Ooh.
they, like, bickered with each other, and I was like, oh, they
That's
couldn't.
cute.
No, I can't say that. It was just adorable.
Ivory masked woman. Who should she be with? Who's cool? None of these people are cool. These are all a bunch of nerds in academia. Is the like crux
I
of the
would-
podcast?
I would pair her with Dessa.
Ooh, that's
They
fun.
they give me the same
Ooh.
vibe, you know, like strong, independent. Like I think that they would mesh well together. I just get that vibe.
I have my own personal idea, but I want to see if someone else says it before I actually throw it out there.
Teb.
Close.
no, so hard.
I mean, with everything that happened to Teb, I guess they would maybe see more of each other.
Aw.
Okay, I have one.
Let's hear it.
Teb is in hell.
Professor Alaro. Because listen. Elephant Lady does death thing. Alaro's like a necromancer, so they've got like that cool vibe going on. I feel like Alaro has like nerd vibes, and so I feel like the cool like hunter vibes kind of counteract that, you know? I don't know. I feel like they balance each other out in a fun way, and like they both have that like fascination with the world of death. I assume. I know not all necromancers are like obsessed with death or anything. I know that she mostly is just like a surgeon, but I
would
feel like
Delnis
you've
feel?
got to like if you're a surgeon, I feel like you've got to be thinking about it. You know?
Yeah, surgeons, right in.
This was
Yes.
hard. It's very hard. But I think I am going to have to pair the Ivory Masked Woman with, I think, just the research archives Ava, not the restricted section
Interesting.
Ava, not the one who likes to grow books in a weird botany
Now,
library.
let's say that one of our listeners, and not the host, has difficulty discerning between all of the different avas in their head. What makes this one a bit different from the others? Just in case I have a difficulty, or someone has a difficulty remembering.
It was the first ava that we met when we were first sent to detention way back in episode, I think it was 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
One of those. It was right before the beginning of Bookworms. I think that Ava would be a good choice, just because they seem like the kind of person who works in the research archives, I think because they admire the knowledge and the experiences that the people who write the books in there have done and such. I feel like the Ivory Masked Woman, sort of crazed as she is and bloodthirsty and such, I think she would be able to give Ava in the research archives that chance to go and explore and see the world for herself instead of having to experience it through other people's visions through books.
Fascinating.
Damn.
Okay. Damn, very good. In that case, let's go through everyone one more time. Just the name of the person. Sam, who do you want to pair up the Ivory Masked Woman with?
Loud the Slad.
All right, Carla,
Dessa.
Sarah,
Professor Alaro.
and Ben.
Ava number 1.
All right. Now, all of you, yes, Carla?
Nathan, you were saying that you had one. Who is it? I want to know.
Well, naturally, this one is the perfect answer, so you all don't have to vote for this one because we already know it's true. But I think Fadan would actually be the perfect fit. Because if Fadan is still active in this world, that means that she has escaped death. And I really love the idea of Fadan being a fugitive while the Ivory Masked Woman is trying to track her down. And they have
Enemies to lovers.
enemies to lovers or romance through that. Basically, I just
Artis.
want killing.
So good.
Oh yeah, no, Artis is getting cucked by the Ivory Masked Woman. No doubt.
It happens to the best of us.
Listen, as if Artis couldn't get any sadder.
No. Fadan has
Okay.
2 hands.
Very
Good
true.
point.
Very true. Okay, everyone, we're gonna do things a little bit differently this time. If you could DM me your vote, and you cannot vote for yourself.
Ooh.
But we can't vote for you either, can we? You can't get points.
No, I already won. Listen, everyone knows that I'm
That's
telling
true.
the truth. Fascinating. All right, everyone. So I have our votes in order from the least votes to the highest number. Coming in at the bottom was unfortunately myself with Fadan, having received 0 votes because I was off the
You told
ballot.
us not to vote for you. What?
You would have won.
I know. Unfortunately, mine isn't old enough to win. I'm sorry, run. Excuse me. So coming in at the bottom, unfortunately, Sarah with 1 vote.
I'll take it.
Coming up next was Sam with 1. Excuse me. Coming up next is actually Carla.
This is a roller coaster.
I'm sorry, I just had a moonlight moment, didn't I?
I voted for
yeah.
And I voted for Ava too because I
You
forgot
did.
Sarah's character.
Oh my.
You forgot it was Sarah's character. We went through them at the end.
I
Carla.
forgot because you said
Oh.
Fidan. So then I
Oh.
completely forgot all the other names.
Oh.
Fadan will do that to you.
I'm
It's
even
true.
surprised that mine got
Fadan
1
is
vote.
just the easy answer to any of
You
these.
hate to see it.
But Ava number 1, I think the tale that Ben drafted of a bookish librarian getting to actually see the world for herself with a cool goth GF is also very good.
Murders.
Damn,
Well,
I can't believe I
beautiful.
voted for my Lost.
I can't believe
Yep.
you contributed to your own downfall.
Wah, wah.
Yikes.
I
Ben
just love-
I
wins
think my
again.
grammar was wrong.
Honestly.
I contributed to my loss, not lost. Loss.
All right, for this continuing arc, the Battleship scoreboard is looking at Ben with 2 wins, Sarah with 1, Sam with 1, Carla.
Carla with
You
the
saw
Carla
the
with
big
none.
goose egg. Come
But it's
back.
a golden goose egg. You're still a winner.
Exactly. come back to the next episode of Conversations and Catapults to see if we play another round of battleships and see if Carla can finally get a point on the board, or if Ben will continue to run away with it with his surprising shipping skills. Anywho, thank you all so much for joining us, and I will see you after a quick break when I begin to slide into the DMs. Thank you all very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
I've lost so much
Bye.
this week.
Bye.
Lady already told me that she'd rather kill integrity.
Oh no.
Oh, it was brutal too. It was, the question wasn't even like which one at first. It was just, would you rather kill artist or a member of Swim? And then she said, no, a member of Swim. And then we had to ask which one, and she had to kill integrity. All because she loves artists too much. Welcome back to another installment of Sliding into the DMs. I'm your host, Nathan, and this is Luke, who you may
Hi.
know from his work DMing in Trials and Trebuchets. And
Yeah.
if you don't know Luke, then what are you doing here? Because you have 115
understandable.
episodes to catch up on.
Yeah, I think it would be understandable if you don't know me. I kind of wallflower, don't talk too much.
Yeah, you know what? And also, the thing about this show is that it was made to like draw people
Mhm.
in.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, the hard part.
Yeah.
Is like, you know, I'm suddenly gifted this task of drawing in a lot of new listeners, but only being able to
Mhm.
discuss what has recently happened. And
Yeah.
you're gonna be quite a challenge.
This is the banana peel on top of the trash heap, as it were.
Oh. I've actually got to steal that. Cut me saying anything, because I'm actually in all of that. Like, I don't know if that's a Luke original or not, but I really do appreciate
I think
that.
it is. I've never heard anyone else say it. I hope it's a meism.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to start using it.
It's good.
But Luke, let's get
Hi.
down to
Nathan.
brass tacks.
Yeah.
I actually have fully prepared questions this time because we wanted a bit more structure. We haven't gotten any feedback from the first episode yet, but I've already decided that I wanted more structure. So I've
And
actually
then the
written-
feedback's going to be like, oh, I love how loose and unstructured, and you just go with the flow of it.
See, that's the fun thing about this podcast is that we're actually going to flip back and forth
Mhm.
between, you know, like being very serious and then very improvisational.
I feel like in part one, or in episode one, in like the player section, you were very like well structured, and we're like, hey, this you person ask like, hey, Sam, how do you feel about Sereneth coming back? And here's the next flowing question. And then our conversation was just 7 hours of us talking, cut down to be like 20 seconds long,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was just me ranting.
I Luke, I have a hard enough time controlling you when I'm DMing for you. Like, and there I have it like I'm in a very clear power position. Here,
Mhm.
I'm at your mercy because
Oh no,
while
you're the host here.
I'm the host, but you're the one who signs the paychecks, and those are things that I'm definitely getting.
You're getting them? I want them. Sarah's in charge of payroll. Can you talk to her for me?
You know, she did just recently put me in charge of HR, so
Oof. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
anywho, help, my podcasters have unionized. Anywho, first question. Now, as you and I both know, a DM's greatest pleasure, or at least one of them, is putting your players in what seems to be an impossible situation and seeing how they figure their way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And after 115 episodes and many years of unrecorded campaigns, I imagine that you have a really good handle on your players. So when you were concocting the whole Ferdinand fiasco, which is what I'm calling this
It's good.
whole
It's
thing.
good.
Thank you. You can use that as an episode title.
I will.
Perfect. Yeah, episode 114. I already nailed it. If I may ask,
Yeah.
when you were planning that, what did you actually expect from the group? Or do you just now plan things without any expectation?
I think it's really hard to plan things without any expectation. It's something that I struggle with quite a bit and can lead to some frustration on my part quite often because I do hope for certain outcomes, obviously. Like I don't ever try to, or at least I actively try not to push people or my players towards a certain course of action, right? And that's like one of my actual big nitpicks with a lot of the way that I run the game is that I'll narrate some of the players' actions, which is just because if left unprompted, they often don't do that themselves.
Yeah, no, you're narrating everything else. And so
Yeah.
I think that's a very common, DM thing.
Yeah. And so that can lead to me thinking like, oh, I'm pushing them down this course of action, etc. But in terms of just having expectations for how an event is going to go, I try to go into things with like a very like on the balls of my feet kind of approach of like, wherever this is going, I just want to be able to spring on that as quickly as possible. And I'll have some things in the back of my pockets to like pull out in the event of, say that there is a bit of a
Say there's an
disagreement.
ivory masked woman
Yes.
who is say there's someone who you have in your back pocket who you can just pull out whenever.
Yes. You can just drop her in the situation.
Oh, you
Always a
drop her
fun
in
time.
any situation and it immediately becomes exponentially more stressful.
I didn't So I knew going into this arc, I want Ferdinand to be, in Celti's words, almost this like impossible to catch, like almost escape artist like woman, this witch, her nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had already set up previously that the ivory masked woman was looking for her. In fact, I was shocked because we met the ivory masked woman, and then 5 episodes later, or like something like that, 6-7 episodes later, very very short after, we hear Celti say to Winsler after giving him the angel tear, like, I need you to fucking take care of this situation for me when it comes up, right? And says the name Ferdinand again. And so for me, I was like, oh, they didn't jump on that at all. Interesting, right? And
to be fair, they had a party to plan.
that is true. There was parties about, and girls to impress, and friends to make up with, all that sort of stuff. Crop tops to wear. But
hey, I
yeah,
get it.
so the whole Grungtown situation, the Ferdinand fiasco, I didn't know what the hell they were going to do. And that's like the joy of it. I think I said this in the last episode. I just want to throw plates at them and see how they catch them. And the way that they caught it was, let's make this door. Let's go through the door. Celti, please come with us. Oh no, it's all going bad. Let's jump in the mud. And then Mira, it's just a whole thing. And then Mira and Integrity actually listening to Ferdinand and say, hey, let's go to like the Loft of Elders and like get sanctuary.
Beautiful. Just
absolutely
you
beautiful.
Immediately see, oh, this is why Ferdinand hasn't been caught.
Yup.
First of all, being able to switch skins, great, but also being able to talk your way into any and out of every situation you find yourself in.
Yep. There was a really funny line in, I think it's a funny throwaway line when you first hear it maybe, but listening back on it, I thought it was very fun, or just like telling of Ferdinand's character in actually episode 113, where as soon as they get out of Grungtown, she goes, so what did I do? What do I owe you all? Why do you want me? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And she immediately drops her like best friends act. And she's like, all right, what's the deal? Untie me. Like, what's up?
Yep. And then also literally, I think the next episode we have, her saying, oh, agreements mean nothing. Deals are meaningless. Which is like those two things in conjunction with each other give such an insight into this character, which is just incredibly fascinating to me.
Yeah.
As this oft talked about, but we're just now meeting infamous individual.
Yeah. So I'm definitely really enjoying playing up that little aspect of like Ferdinand's craveability is off the charts. Right? Like that's a thing I actually wrote in my notebook. Yeah, that was like on my post-it note for like original Ferdinand stuff. I was like, Ferdinand, 100% craveability or something like that.
Hey, make a note. That's the episode name for this. Make a note. I'm not joking.
Yeah, absolutely. And so playing that up has been very fun. And like imagine. She uses enchantment, she uses skin shifting and soul stealing, and she's just clever and cunning, right? Mm-hmm. As someone who survived this long and has wronged this many people must be, right? Like she knows, hey, this is where we need to go to like avoid all this stuff. We'll just go and chill with like Isithil and all that until all this blows over. And I think also a good thing is she knows very easily how to manipulate people. We see that in episode 115.
Yes.
I think when they're in the boat and Winsler, they all do insight checks and only I think Winsler passed. And then Winsler never said anything, or never pried too deeply when they were talking about was it Celti who was the betrayer, or was it Ferdinand who was the betrayer, right?
Oh yeah.
And he didn't pry too deeply about that, which was very interesting to me. But she's definitely...
Sorry for interrupting. I just wanted
okay.
to say, which I think speaks volumes about Ben's character, like playing Winsler, and the tie to Celti, where I think he likes Celti enough not to want to learn anything too terrible about her.
Yeah.
Which is honestly heartbreaking as like someone who sees Celti as primarily an antagonist.
Yeah.
Ben is honestly incredibly low key, but he plays such a great, heartfelt like character.
Yeah, Winsler's outstanding.
They all are.
They're all amazing. I don't
know if they listen. Characters. It's only Winsler. It's only Winsler who's amazing. No, he's probably not listening.
Speaking of people who had really good performances and can really deliver on their characters, the scene between Integrity, Idleberry, and Mira Marchand, played by the wonderful Carla and Sarah.
You got to that before I did. How rude that you're just taking this from me. So,
I saw my route.
You saw it. You're the king of the segue. But I did want to ask you about that. First of all, beautiful conversation. And I think most DMs will agree when two players are having essentially a one-on-one scene together, it's one of the most fun things that you can witness.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to ask you what is like going through your mind during this, because you're not just a DM, you're also creating a show. So like, does that play into your head at all? And like, how do you figure into the pacing of having a conversation between two players? Because when you're involved, you can cut immediately to something else. You can throw another plate at the players in the scene and just lead to that segue.
Yes.
But when it's just the two of them, what goes through your mind?
I think everyone who runs anything loves when their players talk, right? Like you said that. And it's like the most fun. I narrate a lot. I make fun of myself a lot behind the scenes for how much I talk versus everyone else. And so when we can get a scene like the scene between Integrity and Mira, where it's just the two of them talking, and I don't know how long that scene went on, but it was long enough to be perfect, in my opinion.
It was absolutely, and I want to say that, like, because this is not me saying, yeah, the pacing was off. It is me saying it felt like the pacing was perfect there.
Yes, yeah.
And partially, I want to be clear, they ended that conversation with like a hug. They resolved it.
Yep.
You know, you didn't even have to step in.
Yes. They're really good about that.
Yeah. Was that even a thing on your mind?
Sometimes it is. If they start drifting around in circles, I will oftentimes step in. We saw that a couple episodes ago when they were walking through the woods on the way to the marsh, and this conversation was, in my opinion, about to loop back on itself. And the reason I know that is just because they've had that conversation out of character behind the scenes. And when it gets to that point, they would start to loop around on themselves and talk about the same things over and over again. So that's why I like jumped in and was like, knife tree, just kidding, except it's a sneezing tree, blah, 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 moving on, right? And that's important. It's important to know when to interrupt, and it's important to know when you shouldn't interrupt. The second one I'm not as good at, right? Oftentimes I will try to butt into a scene that should have a little bit more room to breathe, and I could have jumped in. I had an idea for something to do with Ferdinand in that scene. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember. It was like a fleeting thought of like, oh, she could do that. I think she was going to jump out of the boat, actually. Like, or try to slyly get out of the boat. Listen, she wants away. Her captor is distracted right now. This is the chance, right?
And that is a very on-brand thing for you. As someone who has like listened to now 115 episodes of this, I think that would have been totally within like your wheelhouse, and the fact that you
Mhm.
did let that scene breathe, I think made it stand out all the more.
Yeah.
Because it was able to resolve, and it was beautiful.
Yeah. I like having resolutions to things because we don't get that very often, unfortunately. Like I let a lot of plot threads just hang in the air for a long time. The Ivory Masked Woman one hung for an entire year without mention at all. I would always write in my notes like have a scene about this or talk about this or reference this, but then other more pressing things were happening, so I never thought that it was worth interrupting with, right? And then that makes her coming back, them immediately remembering and being like, "Ah, hell," right? That just makes that a lot more fun. But then having a moment where you do get resolution, especially like between the player characters, it is meaningful, right? And we have a small version of that a while ago between Sylvie and Integrity.
I was literally about to
Mhm.
mention in a situation where like you have shown that affinity for resolution was between Integrity and Sylvie,
Mhm.
which was just another one of those scenes that stands out. The fact that I was able to think of it. I'm not even a part of making this show.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there are references that pass me by because I am not the DM. I haven't like spent hours writing about this.
Yes.
But the Sylvie Integrity situation, that conversation,
Mhm.
it's one of the best ways that I've seen handling an interpersonal conflict between an NPC and a player character.
Yeah.
Just because you were able to reach a peaceful resolution, which is
Yes.
so rare in the game of D&D. It is not a
I-
conflict resolution game. Or it is a very specific kind of resolution to conflict.
There's a lot of rules about combat, but not a lot about like here's how to make friends, right?
Exactly.
Another thing about the pacing of that scene is that the entire episode had been very expository road episode up until that point, which we've had a lot of already, and I don't want to do again. So if we can have a moment where the players, that was honestly in the Amazing Race when they first get into Isithil, I was hoping for a scene like that, or I guess it's a fun parallel to that scene even, because it's Integrity and Mira alone making their way through Isithil. The topic of warlocks is up and other dangerous things. And so we went through a bit of a tumultuous time. I don't know what I was going to say.
I love
like
that.
a bit of a time of turmoil.
Yeah.
With the whole Grungtown Marsh affair, Ferdinand fiasco, and them now coming and reconvening again in a moment of peace after these things are out in the open is just a very sweet scene, I think. And I assume there's going to be, again, we haven't recorded those next couple of episodes yet, so I know as much as you do at this point. I assume there might be more interpersonal conversations in the next few episodes, and conversations not only just with Ferdinand, but also with, if they actually manage to get other people there, right? Which is their plan, it would seem, seeing as Sarah's like, let's do a peace summit. Please give us the peace summit and all these things. That, to me, amazing, outstanding. I wrote it as an idea in my notebook for like, this would be a cool place to get to. And I'm so glad that they listened.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Which ties right back to the first question you asked of like expectations. I expected them to have a plan, right?
Why? Wait, have we been listening to the same podcast?
Some of the most frustrated I get is when I ask my players, so what's your plan? And they just go, we'll figure it out. And I go, all right, cool. And actually, years and years ago, before we even recorded ourselves, I would, after we finished playing, I would ask them, what are you going to do next time so that I can prepare? And they would tell me, I would prepare, I would show up, they would not do a single thing they had told me, and I would have to be like, all right, here's 8 hours of dumbass shit that I didn't prepare because you guys lied to me.
You know who is actually really great about doing the shit that she says she's going to do? Is Emily Bray.
Yes.
Shit, I just mentioned her last fucking name. She's credited on Sarah's videos. She's credited on
That's
Sarah's
true.
videos.
That's true.
It's fine. It's fine. Her name's
I mean,
out there.
I'm on the podcast feed, but I still bleep my own last name.
It's not. We need to clear it with her before, people may not want
Yeah,
to.
I'll message her after this and be like, hey, we said your full name 18 times.
Yeah, no, we talked
is
about
that
Emily
cool?
Bray and like our home game with her. But,
Yeah.
No, she's really good about that. And that is neither here nor there. This is not even blooper material.
This is just for Emily material.
This is just for Emily material. Hey, Emily, love you.
But
I'll text
I
you
love
back
you,
soon.
Emily. The thing about them telling me their plans, though, is sometimes those conversations never happen. There was a plan to potentially discuss making Ferdinand this is another really old hanging plot thread that just hasn't been mentioned. Again, from Shake and Break, is making Ferdinand, if she was cool, discussing the possibility of making her like the shepherd of potentiality, right? Because that is a thing that Sarah and Upton Winslow still need to sort out, right?
Yep.
And if they don't, then some cool plans get to come into
you know
play.
what I had totally forgotten about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, goodness.
So they had discussed that, right? Because anytime some powerful being shows up in the show, they're like, is this the one? They talked about that a lot with Nesca and then never did it in character, which I was always like, to have this conversation. So I think I've told them 6 or 7 times now, please have this conversation in character. I hope that shows up next episode. I might prompt them with some discussion about that kind of stuff.
Now, speaking of, kind of prompting things and throwing those plates at your players, I wanted to mention one thing, and I would be remiss not to have you discuss this because it may not come up again for another 36 episodes, which is, of course, combat.
Yep.
No,
it's been so long.
Nothing wrong with that. Like, we know what show. We're in episode 115. If people are expecting more combat, like, right around the corner, please listen to a new show. Actually, please don't continue supporting the show on Patreon. Donate more, actually, if you can.
There's room in your heart for more than one show. There's other really good combat shows.
Damn right there are. Anywho. Right, so it's, like, as we've said, it's a very combat-light show, so when shit pops off, how do you keep things fun and interesting to listen to?
That is, oh my gosh.
And, like, you have the odds stacked against you. I'm not trying to, like, hype you up here. But you do have the odds stacked against you in the sense of, all right, Critical Role. That's the first very combat-heavy show I can think of. You know what they have that you don't? Is a visual element. Exactly. And so you would have to do everything. If you're relying on a online map, then that's another technical thing that can mess up on you. First of all, and second of all, great. The listeners will not be able to see this.
Yes, that's the reason we don't use maps. I adore maps. I adore making maps. I adore making combat maps specifically. From one of my old campaigns, just like last month, I threw out all of my huge drawn out maps from like the last major campaign I ran for these people, and it was like a heartbreaking moment for me because I just had this like big poster tube of maps that I had to just like dump in the recycling bin because I was like, I never look at these. There's no point to me having them. I love them so much. I treasure the memories of these maps and everything, and it makes me sad that we can't use them, and because Theater of the Mind is impossible for everyone to get on the same page with, right? We can point to like some non-combat examples just to prove that, which is Carla thinking the orb, which is a sphere, was flat for 60 episodes. Everyone not understanding that Wildcliff was like in a little cave-ish area. Everyone was like, it's a castle, it's on top of a mountain. All these different conceptions of what it is, like those kind of things. The moment where I describe Yagan, the Dragonborn in Shake and Break, as having knives, and he's holding knives as you would hold a normal knife in your hand, and I go, he has knives in his hands, and Ben goes, oh my god, is he okay? Right? Because he thought he had knives stuck through his hands. or whatever the quote is. I might go find that and put it in here because it's really good.
Hey, you know what? We might actually We might actually have an advantage because one of them has knives in their hands.
Wait, why would that be an advantage?
Because they would have taken damage.
to
which
have a
means-
knife?
Well, they have knives in their hands.
They're holding knives, Ben.
Oh, you didn't specify
Did
that
you
when you
seriously think they were
What did you
stabbed through their
expect?
hands and just
when you
went
said
back?
that, I expected like they actually have physical knives jammed into their
Ben,
hands, and their hands are
metal.
their hands
Why
are
are they
bleeding.
still trying to rob this place?
I don't know why I thought that.
That's so good. I had forgotten
Yeah.
totally about that. I thought, you know what? Chances are I probably thought it was just Ben making a very good joke.
No,
That just sounds
he's
like a good goof.
He genuinely was like, "What does he have?" Because Luke, you said he had blood all over his hands. Why does he have what? What happened to him? Right? Yeah. But so like we are never all on the same page about anything.
Mhm.
So combat can be difficult. And most of the time, I will just change my perception of what is happening in the combat to fit with whatever the players are narrating to me, right? And that can be difficult because typically when we run combat, I'll have a tiny map on my end and be like marking where people are moving and what's happening where, just because I do not have the processing power to keep all that stuff in my brain.
That's actually something that I have also struggled with. And whenever I
Mhm.
cannot, whenever it's just theater of the mind, it's so
Yep.
difficult for me to keep track. So I like the idea of keeping just a personal map. I mean, it's so
Yes.
simple, but yeah,
Mhm.
I may steal this.
Yeah, I've done that since the duel episode. Like the duel
Mhm.
episode, if like episode 13, if nothing else, because it's a travesty of an episode. In my opinion, just because it was a not fun combat for my players, right? And then there was technical problems on top of that made it not bad. And those persisted for like a year until I fixed them.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I can take away from that is one, how not to run a combat, and two, use a little map on my end, because that makes complicated stuff easy.
Speaking of how not to run a combat, I think that one of the key things that you do in running combat for your show, which, is very combat light, is
Mhm.
the students are not inherently they don't think of violence as an immediate solution.
Yes.
They are forced into violence.
Yep.
And so, quite often, you in combat situations make it that the point of the combat, the resolution to get out of initiative, is not wiping out everyone
Mhm.
else.
Yes.
It is escaping with an objective. It is getting to a certain place.
Yeah.
We see that in the Spire Nebulosis. We see this most recently in episode 114 and getting
Mhm.
Ferdinand out of there.
Yeah. Get through the door.
Exactly. So how
yeah.
how intentional has that been? Is that something that you always think of as all right, obviously they can't wipe all of these people out? Or, is that
Yeah.
on your mind?
Yes.
The only thing that I can think of as a full-on, we have to kill this person has been Yelm. Because Yelm deserved
Yeah.
it.
He did. Bad dude through and through.
When you
Straight
hear
up.
the fates say you're a bad dude, it's sad.
Yep.
But no, in all honesty, not Yelm, but against Korka.
Yeah.
The fight there was, because Korka was forcing them into violence.
Absolutely, yeah. Korka was forcing them into violence in a minor way, in that he had committed violence against artists. There was, if they had explored a bit more, there was evidence of his plans for external expansion, right? And here's a fun thing. This will probably come up as a little lore tidbit in the next couple episodes, but Korka was the 19th eldest. And
No shit.
and so there's 18, the top 18, like a golf course. That's the important ones, right? Those are the important
he was right
elders,
on the
right?
edge.
Exactly. So he had this really cool magical artifact that bolstered Earth elemental energy. And so the plan was to just go killing elders, right? Move up on those ranks, right? Which ties in to the animalistic, very violent, natural nature of the plane of Ithil, right? In that it's survival of the fittest, right?
Mhm.
And that didn't happen, right? And we didn't get super big evidence of that, but there was violence committed against their mentor. There was a lot of evidence pointing towards these are very evil, bad people. There's a revolution going on. We're being forced into
They
this.
have
There's
a
even
torturer.
conversation.
If your side
Exactly.
this goes for real world stuff too. If you have a side who is a dedicated torturer, you're on the
Yep.
bad side.
Yes, correct.
It's a bad time. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a time that they were forced to violence. The other big one was the other big two were with the Oblex, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it had a full intention of just harvesting them, right? They
Yeah.
fell into that trap like beautifully. I did a horrible job acting, which has become a meme essentially in the audience that even came back for episode 113 because at one point Sarah as an enchanted Mira goes, "It's fine," right? Like that is the worst I've ever acted in my entire life, and they still fell right into the trap, which was that they were going to get cut off from those NPCs. They were going to be all smushed against the corner, like essentially defenseless. Phenomenal. And so then they fought back. And then the other time, obviously, is just Nesca, right?
Mm-hmm.
No choice.
Exactly. It seems that when violence being the resolution, specifically just ending another thing, like just ending a life, that is typically the only, the last resort, which I think is a great touch for this show.
I think it's tonally very fitting, yeah.
Absolutely. I wanted to get to see, in your head, because I see it a whole lot, and I didn't know how intentional it was, or if it was just the players playing their characters to the point of, well, we're immediately going to look for the non-violent solution here.
Yes. So that was in the second episode, I tried to do the intro, and I called them heroes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or at some point in the first or second episode, I said the heroes, right? And they were like, "We're not heroes." And I was like, "What do you want to be called?" The students, right? Which is why anytime I refer to them, I call them the students, is because they made fun of me on episode 2. And so the moment that they were like, "We're not heroes, we're just school children," right? Or we're university students, right? It was like, oh, okay, that's what this is going to be. And then when they're like, "Oh, we have classes and I don't want to hurt people, etc., and avoiding violence," I was like, this is very interesting. So it became a intentional choice to put monstrosities and aberrations in their path, and not humans for the most part, right? The only time I think that, or I guess humans is a bad word,
humanoid
races,
D&D
right?
term, yeah.
Yeah, the non-monstrosities. And so we get to play with that a little bit because especially we're talking about Shake and Break a lot. This is this arc is very much feeling like a sequel to Shake and Break because so many of those plot threads are coming back and it's fun.
It's a stealth sequel.
Yeah, it's the way that I always say that Faint of Heart is the sequel to The Sunken Hatch, right?
Very much
in that it's similar to that in that this is just a minor continuation of those same plots and ideas. But in Shake and Break, we had a minor trio of villains who were humanoid races, and they killed Dane and then tried to hurt the students very badly. And Ben / Winsler, Ben to this day carries a hatred for Chudley the dwarf that I've never seen him have for any other character ever. Anytime the name comes up, he's like, "I hate Chudley."
I didn't realize he liked Dane that much.
I think,
or was it just the betrayal?
It was the betrayal thing. I don't know if Ben or Winsler. That's the only time that a betrayal has ever occurred, right? I can't think of any other time in any other game that I, as the DM, have betrayed Ben as an NPC, with an NPC, and I can't think of another time in Winsler's life that he's been betrayed either, right? So
That's
it's
really
just so he's just very much keyed into that. But the important thing there is that is the most warm-blooded death, I would say, is there's an elf, Amika, who's on Chudley's side, who Winsler just kills, right? She dies, right?
And he, remind me, did he ever have a Serenep style battle of conscience? No.
Absolutely not. Because that's what I mean. It was very much in the moment, heat of the moment, you're dead now, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to Yelm, where it was this is most likely an evil person. This might have been an accident. Did I do the right thing, right? And then took a long time to reconcile that. And another character that came up in that arc that no one ever talks about is the Rat Chef. They totally killed the Rat Chef and then just put her in a bag of grain.
I forgot the Rat Chef existed.
Yep.
I was busy thinking about Har, the
goldsmith.
That's a fun word for torture expert.
I had so much fun making Patter. It was a delight.
Let's go back and see it. But
yeah, but for combat, one, I try not to do it very often. 2, if we do it, I want to give them multiple things to do because I know my players hate fighting things, right? I know they like trying to do other stuff. Sam made the joke constantly in Of Pets and Prophecies. I want to try to talk to it. It's the power of friendship, yada, yada, yada. You can talk down this enemy, right? Like, that is a thing you can do.
Right.
Learn its story and talk it down, and like, you can do that, right? Because I know that's a thing that you are going to want to do. That, I think, is a masterful moment for me. Is that pompous to say? Probably. But I think that's a masterful moment for me of listening to what my players want out of this situation, which is, we are tired of repeatedly fighting and losing against this beast. Let us talk it down.
And that is the key thing. As a takeaway for anyone who is listening, who is considering DMing, or who is a DM, listen to what your players want to do, even if they don't actually say it. You can see through their preferred course of action what they enjoy doing, how they enjoy playing, and you can give them opportunities to play that way. Just be observant, communicate with them, and see those things for yourself. But on that note, actually, Luke, we're coming up on the end of our time, but I wanted to say how much I appreciate talking with you.
This was lovely.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine. And if you have enjoyed this show and you're listening to it, let's say when it comes out in the regular podcast feed, did you know that you can actually listen to it early? Go to the Trials and Trebuchets Patreon. Is that patreon.com/trialsandtrebs?
Yes, it is.
Oh, perfect. And you can start donating and gain access to this show as soon as it drops. But hope you all enjoyed, and don't forget to follow all of the social media at Trials and Trebs on Twitter, probably Instagram too.
Absolutely Instagram.
They even have a
better
Reddit
social
page
media
that is unofficial, but hop on there. Also, if you're interested in giving any sort of feedback for the show, leave a comment on the episode on Patreon or hop on Discord. You can find a link to our Discord at the episode description. And you can just DM me with any sort of feedback, especially if it's hateful. I survive on it. I'm a new creator, and so I really just need to go through that baptism by fire. So please.
I genuinely thrive when people insult the show. There was a comment early on, like a review that was like, Luke takes it very easy on the players, and I think about it all the time, where I'm like, oh, I'm being so nice to them, right? Like, oh, they failed this roll, I should take a move against them. We should talk about that next time. My philosophy approaching failing rolls and stuff.
I actually did want to leave off with a little teaser of, as we had talked about combat, another thing, which I'm sure we're going to get to talk about more, is conflict in general in D&D without using combat. And failure as well, because I don't know what makes me think that we're gonna see conflict and failure in the next episodes.
Shucks.
It's a called shot. We'll see how it goes. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, evening, or night, and I will catch you next time. I don't have a good sign off. Do I need one of those?
I don't think you need one.